This episode is made possible by NetSuite by Oracle and Brex, the AI-powered spend platform.
Hello, this is Alex Triplett, CFO of AppFire, and you are listening to the CFO Thought Leader Podcast.
This is episode 986.
That's probably the most pivotal moment in my career, right? Is taking that chance, learning from somebody who I respect very much, right? And then being able to own this operational excellence back into the organization that really helped us get the data and the insights and the growth drivers that they didn't have when I came there, right? And being a part of driving that was so fundamental for me.
Hi, it's Jack. On today's show, we speak with Erin Sawyer, CFO of Certinia. Reflecting on her career choices, Erin Sawyer tells us one pivotal decision stands out, a decision that would involve moving her family across the country. However, the decision triggered not only a geographic shift, but a shift in Sawyer's professional life, where she would find herself working alongside a CEO. It was an alignment that would ultimately fuel her aspirations to become a chief financial officer. You'll hear that story and much more on today's episode. We'll begin after this. 37,025-1. These are the three numbers to remember to get the visibility and control you need to make the right business decisions instantly. 37,000. That's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down expenses. 1. Because your business is one of a kind, you should get a customized solution for all of your KPIs in one efficient system and with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need, all in one place. Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance, absolutely free, at netsuite.com/KPI. That's netsuite.com/KPI. Hello, we're speaking with Erin Sawyer, CFO of Certinia. Erin, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Erin, as always, we're going to ask you to look back for us. And what we're really looking for are those experiences that you feel prepared you to become a finance leader. What comes to mind?
So great question. So I determined really young that I was going to be an accountant, right? At age 5, decided that accounting was going to be it. I loved math. I loved the structure of things and really set that up as my career journey and started off in accounting, right? My first job coming out of college was at Honeywell Aerospace as a cost accountant. And so I started there as a cost accountant, moved along to a staff accountant, and really enjoyed getting to understand the foundation of finance. That was important for me. You know, a couple years after doing that, I learned, okay, now that I know how the numbers got there, right, this isn't really my passion. I had thought for all of these years that was going to be my career and my passion, but I really wanted to understand how the business worked more and how to drive it forward, not just how things got there, but how to move the business along. And so I kind of moved my career more into the finance side of things and really into the FP&A side. For years, I worked actually in the Yellow Pages industry, which was at a transformational stage back at R.H. Donnelley of, trying to transform into business transformation, right? And in that finance role, what was important for me is, how do we help them drive those decisions in this transformational space? And how do I be that thought partner and that finance partner with the business to both learn what they're doing, but also help them in those decisions? And that was very important for me at that time. Then in my career, I spent a lot of time in finance and FP&A, a lot of time, right, and different levels and, business partnering and executive reporting, and really enjoyed that, but still something was kind of missing. And part of that was along the way, I saw things weren't always efficient. And so it was really bringing in that operational excellence layer, which is, something that's very important to me. But it's not just about, right, how the data got there, that first layer, right, how we're looking at the metrics to drive it forward, but also how we're working internally to do that. And what is our operational efficiency as an organization to drive it forward? And so in the last couple of years here, starting at Vertafore quite a few years ago, right, bringing in that operational excellence side was really important in that layering of my career. And I think really helped me get to that kind of last compelling point to make me prepared for this level that I have today. So the base foundation of accounting, the business partnering on the finance side, and really the, how we work, right, the process, the systems, the data, and how do we utilize that to help drive kind of businesses forward.
So along the way, would you say you had good mentors, and did it vary? And did you ever leave a position perhaps because you discovered that you weren't going to get the mentorship that you would have liked?
That's actually a really good question. So yeah, I had really good mentors along the way. In fact, some of my career journey is following them, right, to that next step or that next company and uncovering that opportunity. A part of what was important for me in those mentors is I'm a very independent thinker, right? I'm very in control of my own career, and they knew that and helped me support that along the way. And so I used my mentors a lot as a sounding board of like, here's what I'm thinking next. This is important for me, right? Like, let me talk through this and see how to get there along the way.
I wonder, over the years, when did you aim to become a CFO? Was it 5 years ago? Was it 10 years ago? When would it have been?
Actually, it was probably only about 5 years ago. I will say I never have my career fully figured out, right? Kind of figuring it out along the way. But 5 years ago, when it was really bringing in that last layer of operational excellence, of having those foundations to say, being a leader and being a thought partner within the organization and driving value and efficiency is important. And that CFO role is something that can do that. And that was started to be my aspiration in that next step.
I wanted to just touch on two of the, I think, companies you made an investment of career years with.
Yeah.
Lexus Nexus, which is close to 5 years, and you leave Lexus Nexus and then you go to Vertafore, where, of course, you're sort of at the vice president level entering Vertafore. So you're a senior executive. How am I doing? Am I close to?
You're close. Yeah. Yeah.
And again, that was a deliberate step. You wanted to climb. You had made a 5-year investment at Lexus Nexus. Would you have changed anything about those chapters? Did you stay too long someplace ever? Or wondering, looking back, if you question maybe some of the decisions you made?
So good question. So Vertafore, one of the greatest experiences that I had growth-wise in my career, honestly, so it was a great step at that point in time. That step was actually following a mentor of mine, right? A mentor of mine had come here, introduced the opportunity. And what compelled me to that opportunity was bringing in that operational side, right? Owning the data and the systems and the process and being able to drive value of that connected data back into the organization. And so it was really an opportunity to get that last layer that at that point in time I'd done, right, ad hoc in my career in that FP&A side, being in different projects, but not owning it and not being responsible for the ownership of it and being able to drive it effectively throughout the company.
I'm wondering when during your career, as you look back, you think perhaps maybe you took a risk. And what was that type of risk? Can you get specific with us? We'd love to know where and when that risk was taken?
Well, and I can tell you, so when I'm used to being a vault of information, so my ability to disclose, I apologize. It's that step at Vertifor that was pivotal for me for two reasons. One, it was a big career step because I moved my family across the nation for it, right? So it was taking a chance versus what we had been doing for a long time, right? We had a foundation back where we were in Raleigh. There was this opportunity. And the reason that it was attractive to me was I got to work side by side with the CEO, right? A woman CEO of a business, to be able to learn from her. And that was compelling in that opportunity. And it was a risk and it was a chance and it was a big move. My kids were younger at that point in time, and we had to decide, do we want to up level them and move them across the nation for this chance to be able to learn and drive value? And honestly, that's probably the most pivotal moment in my career, right? Is taking that chance, learning from somebody who I respect very much, right? And then being able to own this operational excellence back into the organization that really helped us get the data and the insights and the growth drivers that they didn't have when I came there, right? And being a part of driving that was so fundamental for me.
Was that the adoption of some new technology, or was that just engineering the process of some kind?
Yes, to all of it. So in two ways, we had to adopt new technology, right, into the technical stack that we had today to drive efficiencies back into the business. And then some of it was also reutilizing the technology that we had to make sure that we were visualizing and displaying data in the way that it needed to be to drive meaningful decisions, right? And so again, it's having those insights and then creating that structure of efficiency. At the time when I came in, I would say my biggest pain point is we spend time on compilation versus analysis. We were very much compiling, right? We would just add people and add people and add people to compile. And instead, we took a step back, fixed the infrastructure, right? The way we can capture and analyze and review that data and then visualize it and give it back to the organization to drive that growth strategy.
Had you just done something like that before, or what made you feel as if you could tackle and help drive this?
So yes, in parts, not as a complete owner. And I never owned the systems teams before, right? That was new. That was the first time in my career where I had to learn what a sprint was, what agile methodology was at the time. But I had owned the data, right? The analysis, the finance side. And so bringing that systems part in was pretty natural. And the fun growth part of my career too. And now I don't want to let it go, right? I want to have that finance and operational and system side as well to have that end-to-end view.
So just to reveal perhaps a little better for us, the types of people you were collaborating with to make this happen were perhaps different from your earlier chapters. I mean, I would imagine it was, of course, the technology team. You referred to the teams, but I would imagine there were a lot of meetings involving department heads or what have you as well. Can you give us a better sense of who you were collaborating with?
Yeah, so it was, our head of our enterprise applications, right? So our internal systems, it was different operational functions or leaders within the business, right? It was our chief customer officer whose, important value was being able to understand what our customers were doing, right? Or how they were utilizing our information. It was our head of sales and marketing who wanted to understand data and pipeline. And so it was trying to meet the needs of everybody and prioritize and align that, as well as internally within finance, right? Where we're focused on, collections and improving DSO and, close cycles. And so it was meeting with each of those as well as our technology team to figure out, okay, a lot of asks, right? How do we do that? And how do we optimize it and deliver value back as quick as we could back into the organization and prioritize?
And again, it was after you leave Vertifor, you actually step into the to a CFO role. And I'm curious, was it a recruiter? Was it a relationship? Was it what was the connection that allowed you to do that?
Yeah, so that first one was through a recruiter, right? And, building that relationship with kind of some of the recruiters and stepping into that first role as a CFO.
Were you surprised when they? I'm sure you weren't, but I mean, was the outreach had they been knocking on the door for a while, or did you begin to have them more frequently, or what was what developed there?
Yeah, so they were definitely reaching out, right? And I was at the point, I think, at Vertifor where we had kind of driven the value, fixed everything, and kind of looking for that next step and moved into the deputy CFO role. I'm looking for that next step to really be CFO of an organization. And so, recruiters had reached out and something that sounded like an interesting opportunity where I thought, again, I'm looking for something where I can go in and be a thought partner, a strategic partner, and drive value, right? And those were three things that I was looking for and how I moved into kind of that next role at Wowza.
I forget. Is Vertifor, was it owned by private equity or what?
Yes. Yep.
It is. Right? Is that right? Was that kind of a new world for you as well, being senior management in an organization owned by a private equity?
Yeah, it was actually my first private equity experience. I
Yeah.
had spent most of my career, I would say, in public based companies. So we talked about Lexus Nexus before, right? Mostly everything was public based companies. And so this was my first experience going into the private equity type.
Okay, well, thank you for a nice overview of your career journey. We are going to ask you now to fill us in about your CFO tour of duty at Certinia. Tell us about this company. Let's begin there. Tell us about what this company's about and what its offerings are today.
Yeah, so we support services businesses. And so services work. Let me define that a little bit because maybe not everybody knows what services work is. Right. So services work, for our definition, is any work being performed by people in direct support of a customer. So that could include consulting services, customer success, software implementations, just kind of to name a few. And so here at Certinia, we deliver, mission critical software that helps those businesses, realize value in increasing billings and revenue, optimizing their resourcing, gaining intelligence, right, to deliver that services work more efficiently to their customers. We've been on a kind of a period of transition, right? We started back in 2009, being built on the Salesforce platform. Started in kind of that accounting space, but a different focus, right? Focusing on kind of accounting at that customer account based level versus that transactional level. And then quickly understood that, hey, this technology really works for that services oriented industry, right? That industry that's utilizing these resources to deliver value, and then quickly pivoted into the professional services automation of where we are today. Last year, right, we changed our name from previously known as Financial Force to Certinia, a pivotal moment for us, right? Really bringing that certain into our Certinia name, right? And that's important for us, is making sure that we are aligning that certain, right, in our customers' minds of, having reliability, seamless data, trust in our products, and being able to deliver for their customers.
Is it owned today? Is it owned by private equity today? Who owns the company today?
Yeah, it is. Haveli purchased Certinia back in August of last year in 2023 as the primary owner of Certinia.
So, given your experience that we were just talking about at Vertifor, this is familiar surroundings for you. Did you arrive in the CFO office? Is it 6 months ago or
4 months? 4 months.
4 months?
Yeah.
Well, tell us something of what your priorities are as you arrive. What is it that the first few things you wanted to do, or let's give the first 100 days. What I'm sure you had a list.
Yeah, well, first thing coming in is really doing kind of a deep dive into how things are working today, right? Understanding, again, that foundation of systems, data, and process, which is always key for me. But what are we doing today? What are we delivering? How are we measuring ourselves? And how is the team delivering that to the organization? What are our areas of strength within finance, and what are the areas of opportunity that we want to work on, right? As a finance organization, which I really see as a service organization back into the business. And so, in those first couple days, I spent a lot of time deep diving into everything, right? Met the whole team, deep dove into their processes, understood what was working, right? Where they were spending their time, and where we were focusing on compilation more than analysis, and how we can optimize that to continue to, again, drive that value back into the business. So that's where a lot of my time was in kind of those first couple days. Where I see us going in the finance organization, and what's important to me here is, again, driving that thought partner and being that partner back into the business to drive value to help us make decisions. And so that comes with, again, analysis versus compilation, which is key for me, but using that connected data and how we use it, right? How we utilize our systems. The power of our product that we have is we utilize our own products. And so we have that connected data. And how do we take that and give that back to the organization to make those decisions? And so that's where we're on this journey right now here in finance is, we have a lot of strengths in there, and we have a lot of opportunities to bring that true partnership kind of back into the business.
Now, we know many of the private equity firms have their own metrics, their own way of looking at the business. But as a CFO arrives, they too have sort of a fresh perspective that they can bring. And we're wondering if there's a business dynamic or a measurement that you have sought to either raise the profile of or make the organization more widely aware of, uh, something like that. And is that part of your world?
Yeah, so I think we're teaching the organization about the snowballs. And so, snowball for us, I'll define it a little bit, especially in ARR, which is a pretty common software metric. The annual recurring revenue is the movement of what happened. And so, as an organization, we definitely looked at bookings and new deals coming in. We always look at churn, right? And want to make sure, why customers are leaving us and how we can help in that aspect. But understanding the full movements in the organization, which we call the snowball, starting and the movements and the ending is something that we're teaching back into this organization. That also being said, right, the industry in general is changing a little bit, right? Costs are increasing in the market over the last couple of years, and making sure that we bring in that mindset of profitable growth, right? We want to continue to have our revenue growth, which is important, but how we look at this in a profitable way is also very important. And so, bringing that dynamic of profitable growth back into this organization and continued in everyone's mind of making sure that we're looking at returns, right, of what we do, where we should be investing, and how that helps us to continue to drive forward is definitely important.
So is profitable growth revealed to you at what level? I mean, is it the product level? How are you going to achieve that visibility required to understand better when a sale is more profitable than another?
Yeah, it definitely will be at the product level, right? And that's kind of additionally on the data journey that we continue to be on, right? Is getting that product level insights of, what products are more profitable than others, right? What drives growth, where the adoption is within the customers, what is important to them, and what products that they're utilizing, and which all comes into that profitable growth, right?
So in 12 months from now, where do you want to be with your profitable growth? I mean, your lines of sight into that. Is there something that you're doing to make certain that the data is being more widely circulated, or a certain analysis is being done to reveal more of that profitability? Yeah.
Yeah, so we're definitely, doing more product level reporting, right, for the organization. And we've had all the data. And again, the nice thing about our systems and our connectivity is we have all the data. It's just visualizing it better back for the organization and making it visible and showing the importance of it and educating right back into the organization. And so the journey that kind of my team in finance, which includes our IT and data organizations, is really taking the power of that data and infrastructure that we have and visualizing it and then educating it back into the org. And so that's what we're really focused on this year, is knowing again what our customers have, right? How they're utilizing it and how we can help them even more in their adoption of the products and utilizing it from that perspective. So it's that connectivity of the data that's really important.
So we want to touch on AI with you, and we're wondering if you can provide us with any insights into the company's strategy for adopting, integrating AI technologies into its operations today. Is there something you can share with us related to AI and how the organization will be leveraging it more?
Yeah, the great thing about Certinia and our products is, the singularity of the platform and the connectivity of data. And so, we have the advantage of connecting those dots within the processes, but also within the underlying structure. And so we see soon, right, the adoption of some pragmatic AI technologies, specifically around cash flow forecasting, utilizing that data, and optimizing service margins coming out here in the near future. As a finance leader, the power of AI is important to me. I've talked a little bit about here of, moving out of compilation, getting into analysis, right? And I've spent years, and I think a lot of finance leaders have spent years, right, trying to automate and optimize transactional based processes, right, have ability to look at that data. But there's so much power in getting that predictability right in our hands to be able to make those decisions, right, and utilizing tools, right, that help analyze big data sets and drive that predictability and insights back in.
I should preface this by saying we really are doubling down on our conversations with CFOs on AI and just trying to understand better how AI is expected to change not only the offerings of a company but the business model.
Is there anything more you can share with us about the types of conversations you're having internally? Something about AI?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely looking at, ways that we can optimize and provide that predictive insights right into the processes that we deliver within our tools and solutions. And so again, our solutions sit on the Salesforce platform that we have today. So there's so much connectivity in that data, right? And again, some of those new technologies that we're looking at, in that early adopter stage are really around that predictability, around optimizing the margins, right? Resource planning. Instead of, having to go through it, some of it can do it, for you. And then optimizing that cash flow forecasting, right? Using the trends and history to get that predictability back into, what the business is going to be doing from a cash perspective and payments.
Is that going to change how you organize your team or use your team if you were to try to look into the future for us? Are there certain hires you're likely to make or less likely to make as you consider how some of these technologies are going to be used?
That's a good question. I don't know yet, right? Without getting the use of them, but I can imagine it might change. I don't know if it will change the hires. It might change how we do our work, right? And it's going to give us better insights to be more strategic and thoughtful and thought partners in our work by having some of that predictability around it. Now, again, I still think you have to use some judgment and thought around what it has. But again, I think that the hires may not change, but how they work will change.
Okay, nice. Thank you for that. We're going to jump to our finance strategic moment question where I ask you just for one moment of insight that you've had along the way. It might have happened 10 years ago. It might have happened last week. But we're just looking for one moment of insight that you might be able to share with us that you experienced because of your unique lines of sight into organizations that you've had over time and understanding how finance really can see opportunity as well as risk. What comes to mind?
Well, I want to take you back to the operational story that I was talking about a little bit earlier. When I joined that company, I was sitting kind of in the conference room my first week trying to understand what was going on, right? Heard a lot of noise around, this team couldn't do this team couldn't do that. And I really wanted to sit down and understand it. And so I sat in that room and I had them walk me through the process. And they showed me, at the time we were using Salesforce at the time. And they were walking me through a process and they said, this is taking me 60 minutes. And I said, oh my gosh, this is taking you 60 minutes to change something. And part of it was, right, at the time, it's not that the technology couldn't do it, because the technology could do it. It's just the way that we had set it up and the processes that we had put around it, weren't working efficiently. And I said, if this is taking you 60 minutes, right, and we were receiving, a number of these requests per day, this was very inefficient for the organization. And so we were adding more people within this team because it was so time consuming. And then I went down and I sat in the next process, and my head of AR at the time came to me and said, I need to add more people. And I said, why do you need to add more people? Well, we have this many cases coming in all the time. And I was like, well, how is that possible? Well, we were sending out between 5 and 60 invoices per customer per month, right? And they were just confused. I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder that they're confused, right? Like the way that we had set up our technology was just inefficient for our business needs. And so we had our team kind of over processing here, spending 60 minutes. We were getting requests to add more people in because our customers were confused because we were sending them between 5 and 60 invoices for one customer per month. Every month. I'm like, well, no wonder that they're confused, and no wonder we're just adding people to kind of talk to them all the time and try to explain it. And so that came really back into this moment of, wow, our process, our systems, and our data are all important to look at. And we were looking at things, I would say, very siloed. And that was really that kind of strategic moment for me, is like, we need to take a step back and evaluate the whole process, right? We had a lot of connected systems at the time, and each team was kind of responsible for theirs and did what worked for them at the time, but it didn't work holistically for the organization, right? And it didn't drive efficiencies in the organization. And therefore, the next team that got the output of what was designed by the previous team was having to add in people to try to keep up because it wasn't efficient for them. And so really in that, it was taking that step back, again, I said it, and talking with our chief customer officer and our AR team and our technology team and our finance, different parts of our finance team, and figuring out what is not working, where are you spending our time, and how can we take a step back from this and make this whole thing seamless from end to end, right? And look at the whole end-to-end process on how we deliver. We had the right technologies in place at the time. We just didn't have the right setup, right? And the right processes. And so we had to go in and tweak how we did things and add in some supplemental softwares to optimize where we maybe didn't know that this was going to fall down in that next step of the process. And really kind of taking that operational view of this is really what opened my eyes of, the finance, the data, but also how we work, that whole end-to-end process, right? We can't just work in silos. We have to understand from, when our sales team takes an order over here, how that works all the way down the funnel through our finance team, all the way to our customer success team, to make sure that each of those steps is efficient and they have the data that they need, again, to make those thoughtful decisions.
CFOs and controllers, does expense management feel like a necessary evil? It's time to switch to Brex. Brex automates and accelerates spend management with easy-to-use corporate cards, travel, expense management, and bill pay, all on one AI-powered platform. Brex makes it easy to boost efficiency and compliance enterprise-wide and free up your managers, employees, and accounting team for higher impact work. Top companies from startups to enterprises are using Brex to automate manual work and transform their finance operations. We're talking DoorDash, Robinhood, Airtable, and countless other industry leaders. Ready to join them? Switch to AI-powered spend management at Brex.com.
We're going to jump to our mentoring round where I'll ask you several quick questions intended to inform and inspire future finance leaders. We want you to think back to, it wasn't too long ago, really, but the first time you stepped into a CFO role and how, what surprised you? There must have been, if you could go back in time and just give yourself a piece of advice about this role, what would it be, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I would say that first day, I overwhelmed myself in that role, only thinking that I had to know everything and really more on the technical accounting side, right? As I said in my career, I had left accounting a while ago, and I know all of our statements and our debits and credits and all the financial side of it, but that fundamental deep side of technical accounting wasn't really in my wheelhouse anymore. And I stepped into this role thinking I have to know everything. I am responsible for everything. And that is all on me. And what I quickly learned is it's important to build a great team around you, right? And I don't have to know everything. I need to understand it and I need to know how to get it, right? And I need to build that network around me and those experts and those thought leaders that can help in those things where that might not be in my skill set, right? And that's okay, right? The important thing is that I know how to go get that information, right? I know how to understand that information and I know how to continue to drive the business forward. But I think that was probably the most important thing, kind of stepping into those first couple days of, looking at some of these things and feeling overwhelmed, right, on what I had to do and just really on that very technical, guidance side of things.
We always like to ask our guests to comment on the personal side of things for us a little bit. Wondering if there's something you do that most people don't know about you, something your colleagues would be surprised by. Anything come to mind? Something about you most people don't know?
Yeah, I think most people that know me as kind of very structured. I'm very in control of my destiny and my own actions. I will say I didn't always have it figured out, right? Even though I said I knew at 5 I wanted to be an accountant, I'm the first in my immediate family to go to college. And so I didn't know starting out that colleges were better than the other, right? I started at kind of the local college. And that's what I knew to do, right? Quickly learned, and you'll see in my whole career in life, the power of data to drive decisions that, some were better than others. And so, I ended up finishing different than where I started. But I didn't always know along the way, like the right path. And I've learned that that's okay, right? And I try to find that information and resources to help me drive that decision. But even as I outlined my career, it's been very structured, but it took me a while to figure out how to structure that.
Is there a book selection you might have for us?
I'm actually currently finishing a really good book that I've really enjoyed. I think it's going to help me both in my career and also as a parent. It's called Hidden Potential. And so it was this motivational book that I'm almost finished with, but what I liked about it is it talked about stretching past your comfort zone, right? And doing stuff that kind of puts you in that level of discomfort to help you continue to grow. And I want to make sure as a leader, right, and also as a parent, right, helping to continue to grow my team and realizing that everyone's hidden potential might be a little bit different, which is I found a lot of value in this book so far, and I'm almost done with it. And so I think that was something that was important. Also, the other thing in it I really found impactful is it talked about don't go into something trying to be your best, right? And I thought that's an interesting term. I feel like so many times I've said, did you do your best, right? And it said go into something approaching it to do better each time, right? And do better than the last time. And I thought that's a really interesting view, both as a leader, right? And as we're kind of growing teams and also selfishly as a parent, right? Of making sure it's, did you do better each time and trying to grow what you're doing?
Great. Thank you for that. We are up to our final question where we'll ask you to look forward finally. We'd like to know what your priorities are for the next 12 months as CFO of Certinia. What would those be?
Yeah, so my priorities really are kind of bringing that blend of financial and data and strategic insights back into the business, right? Continuing to leverage our technology that we have and continuing to try to be the best of that technology is kind of what I'm focused on here.
Erin Sawyer, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
Thank you.
Hello, Thought Leader listeners. We hope 2024 is treating you well. If you haven't already, we hope you'll pay a visit to CFOthoughtleader.com and go ahead and subscribe to our Mentoring Round newsletter, where we highlight the career lessons and moments of strategic insight shared by our recent CFO guests. Also, LinkedIn users, please go ahead and follow our CFO Thought Leader company page, and you'll be certain not to miss a single Thought Leader video debut. CFO Thought Leader, the #1 thought leadership platform exclusively for and by CFOs. As always, thank you for listening.